Alright guys, for this video we're going to start looking about preparing stuff for sheets. So what we're going to end up doing is using the exercise here, the Miller residence, and we're going to just get everything ready. So there's not really going to be any modeling for this one. It's all going to be adding annotations and creating drawings and getting them ready for sheets. This video is going to be longer than it was originally stated, but for my class, if you're in my class, we'll talk about how the homework situation will work for this. But for the most part, you want to get started on this right away. It's going to be easy. It's going to be longer than I said, but all that you really need to do is just kind of follow along. So what you're going to do is go ahead and open up this assignment if you have it, and we're going to just start from here. So basically, to prepare things for sheets, we're going to need what? We're going to need dimensions, we're going to need tags, we're going to have to make sure we have rooms, and eventually we're going to need a title block. So I think for this we'll focus on right now a floor plan like this, but we're going to turn it into a construction plan. We're going to assume that you already know how to do furniture, so we're not going to do a furniture plan again. So what I'll do here, under my floor plans, you can see by default we still have level 1 and level 2, and I should rename these. And I'm going to duplicate this view here because I want to create a construction plan. Now, maybe I want a floor plan, maybe I want a furniture plan, so maybe I want a bunch of different plans, but I want all those plans to be under the floor plan type. So what I'm going to do is duplicate the view, and I'm going to duplicate with detailing, and that's going to make sure that all my detailing comes along. So about 90% of the time you're going to want to do this. If you're doing a sheet that breaks up, you could do duplicate as dependent, which isn't the scope of this video, so we're just going to focus on duplicate with detailing for now. Okay, so now you'll see I'll have copy of level 1 and I'll have level 1 here. So I'll just rename this. I'm going to call this, construction plan. Caps. Now, it's totally up to you how you do this. I'm going to do construction plan ground level. You could put ground level first, construction plan. Maybe we'll do that. If you had numbers, first level, second level, that would keep them in order. By doing it this way, with this name doesn't really matter. So, ground level construction plan. Okay, that'll rename that. And then this other one that we duplicated here, I'm going to actually leave a copy of level 1 just so that I always have it, and that's actually what I'll work on. Okay, and then these guys will update automatically because we're using duplicate view. Because we're doing duplicate with detailing, they'll update. So I'll name this one ground level, and this is going to just be the, let's say, RCP. Or I had you guys do floors, I think, so let's call this one the finished plan. Okay, so now we have our ground level construction plan, ground level finished plan, and then our reflected ceiling plan would be in here. I'm going to go ahead and rename it to be consistent, even though we might not get to that on this video. It's good to be consistent, and just to be short, I'll just do RCP for that for now. Probably would want to spell that out in the future. Okay. Let's see. So on my ground level here, on the construction plan, what I'm going to do is just kind of give this some rough dimensions. We haven't really talked about permanent dimensions, so I'm just going to go through and give some of my raw dimensions. I might miss a few here, but the idea when you dimension these interior walls, basically, and you'll cover this in Condocs, you want to portray to the builder, obviously how to build the space, but you don't want to overdo it with dimensions, and you definitely don't want to duplicate dimensions, because when you duplicate dimensions, that means you have the ability for one to be, let's say, X and one to be Y. So if I said, if I gave this a dimension, I went to annotate, and maybe under aligned, and I selected, let's say, this line and this line like this, and I gave this a dimension of X, and somehow I came down here accidentally, let's say it was a bigger room and had the same dimension, and this was Y, and somehow this changed an inch, let's say. In AutoCAD it was a lot easier to get away with something like this. In Revit it's not so much the same. But I don't want to have a chance for these to be conflicting, because that causes a lot of problems. So you really want to look out for duplicates. Okay, so and the scale kind of matters here. we can see that we can change that later. Since we're dealing with a residential project, we're going to keep this in 1/4 inch scale. And basically, from there on out, all you really have to do is just, start dimensioning as you would. So you can stick to exterior walls or interior walls. I'm not really, this isn't a class on dimensioning stuff, so we're not going to be too picky about it, but I'm going to go from center line to center line. Basically, when you dimension this stuff, you want to try and dimension everything from center to center. So even the windows here, you'll see I'll go from center to center. And then to show you kind of like a continuous here, we can do aligned. Go from there down to this one maybe and call it quits. So another idea of duplicate dimensions, we don't need to dimension this, right? Because we can do the simple math of adding these two and subtracting this one. There's no need to put a dimension from here to here, so that's plenty for that. Okay, and you don't need to specify windows, because since we're doing a construction plan, we're actually going to come down here eventually and unhide these tags, and these tags are going to represent the width and a legend, right? So we don't need to worry about adding widths of windows, we just need to know where to place them. Same with doors. Alright, so I'll do the same thing on the outside here. Now you want to keep dimensions that go the furthest stretch all the way to the top, that way you have room for the other ones inside here. So I can do a continuous from the center of all these windows. Now maybe something like this, you could do a special note and maybe do a center line here. But for now I'm going to just dimension here to the center of these. And to the center of the door there. So you can see it makes it really easy to do these dimensions in Revit. So there's not really a whole lot going on here. So inside the room is basically the same idea. Aligned and into the center of walls here. So I'll maybe go there to there. Now you could obviously you could dimension these on the outside, but the problem is you're going to have overlapping lines. You really want to try and keep it as neat and as readable as possible. You don't want to make it a puzzle for somebody to figure out. Okay, so in a case like this, you have this gap, it goes back in here. This wall is aligned with this wall, so instead of putting another dimension here, the one thing that you could easily do is under annotate up here, I'm going to do text. Okay, and I'm just going to simply say align. Alright, now I want to align this corner to this corner, right? So I need to add leaders. So under text, you'll see you have format up here. These guys will put out new leaders. So whether you want it to be curved or two segments or one segment, curve's kind of nice here. And where you want the leader to actually come out. See, we want one to come out at the top and the top. Let's see, select this, and then we're going to have one at the top and the top. So I'm going to add one here and add one here, and just drag it to that corner. And that corner, okay, that tells me to align, and maybe you want to make this somewhat nice and neat. So that tells the builder to align these two corners, so they can, as they're laying out the framework, can figure that part out. We still do need to give them a depth here, so we could just be consistent and come across here and here. And we'll leave that at that for now. Okay, we don't really need to give a depth here in the closet, I guess. Yeah, we don't really need to worry about that. So I could go from whatever's left over from over here, I can come in and come in. Whatever's left over, usually you would leave that in a closet probably. you wouldn't take it out of the room necessarily. So let's see what else. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on dimensioning everything here because I think you can kind of appreciate the idea here. It is a little time consuming, but I think you'll be able to handle it. So maybe, see, the thing is here with the hallway, maybe we could put a dimension here, and that takes care of everything down through here, so I don't even really have to do math. But the problem is you end up with a number you're going to have to change, because I can guarantee you the builder isn't going to build it to this precision. So we'll put it there in the hallway. You would put maybe strict or hold next to it if this was the dimension you wanted to go off. So for example, if this was my text here, I could do a text above it and say hold. Okay, and that is going to be the dimension that's going to be held. So no matter what, the contractor is going to make sure that this dimension is held to this. Okay, and then whatever this is whatever it is. Maybe I do a hold here and whatever's left over type of deal. But that's how you kind of add to the text. So you don't really ever want to replace with text, because if the dimension ever changes, you might forget that you did that. So you always want to use the actual value here. In the text field, you can add to it here. You can see you can add prefix if you want, suffix, and below. There's really no reason to replace the text. So a word wise is never replace the text. Just you always use the actual value and then add the text values here. Okay, so we'll keep on going here. Dimension there. We're going to need a dimension here. Okay, this dimension is going to be good all the way down. So you run into issues like this where you know you really just want to be as neat as possible. So maybe the dimension can go in a different room, and you can see there's not really anywhere I can put this dimension that's going to make sense. And I don't want to go outside necessarily because I haven't been consistent outside. So I might put it here. Maybe I can look at putting this dimension outside here. Maybe move this down to here. And move my text up to here for this one. And I don't really like the idea of this being here, but sometimes you get stuck with these things. You know, maybe that's okay. I don't really know. So the space in here as well. Now, if you want to continue a dimension that's already there, you kind of just come over here and snap so that it aligns with the other ones so that they're in order. We want to be consistent there. This isn't aligned, so you know, in a space like this, you could even get away with a call out to another sheet of another scale. And since we're talking about doing this, now would be the opportune time to introduce that, I guess. And again, this is something you're going to pick up in construct, so I'm not really going to express too much about why we do it. I'm just going to show you how we do it. Okay, so under view here, I'm going to do a call out. And basically, a call out takes an area of emphasis, and you can blow it up to another scale if you want to, move it to another sheet, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to, so right now, I'm just going to draw a box around the bathroom area like this. Okay, and I'm going to change my view scale. Maybe we do bump this up to a 1/2 inch. So I'll change my view scale for that to a 1/2 inch. Oops, I changed it to here. I did it in the wrong spot. I need to change my view scale back to 1/4 inch there. And we'll change this when we get to the view. Okay, there we go. It's set to 1/2 inch by default. I just didn't have it clicked. Okay, so we're just going to draw that around there for now, and we're going to forget about it for now. Okay, so we might need to clean this up just a little bit. Maybe drag these guys out some. So a call out, I mean, is usually just, you can see just a square box. You never really have to draw any crazy shapes or anything like that. So, and you can see this is going to refer to whatever sheet we end up putting it on. So that allows me not to put crazy dimensions in here. I can put them on a bigger sheet and not clutter things up. So what I'll do next, continue dimensioning out over here. Now these guys are going to be the same, so I can just do one dimension here, and I can do a dimension here, here. Now I haven't been dimensioning the doors, but like I said, you're going to do that to the center. Like this case opening here would be to the center of the door, like this. And maybe if you were going to do, you want to do keep things nice and aligned, what you could do here. We're in the Annotate tab, don't forget. See, what was I going to do here? Detail line. I'm going to change my line to center line here, and I'm going to go from the center of this door to there, and maybe drag this a little bit past here. And what I would want to do technically is keep this aligned. So what I would do is select my door here and align from the center of this door there so that that was actually centered. Oh, I had this dimension on here. We can get rid of that. Guess I made this one continuous string now. I'll have to delete that. So I probably would have want to make this center to begin with. Seems like it's stuck to something here. I hope you're not having the same problems I am. There we go. I just had it stuck on something. So now we're aligned there. So this tells, whoever is building this place, I want these to be centered. So make the center of these doors centered. You can take it a step further with symbols. Center line symbol. You've seen this symbol before. You've had to make it before. Here it's a little bit easier. So I'll put the center line just to reinforce the fact that that is indeed a center line between those two doors. Okay, so more dimensions here. Again, obviously I can't keep those aligned the way that I want to, so what I end up doing is I'll move that to there, and I'll move this over to here, and I'll move this dimension over to here. Because I really like to keep things nice and neat when you do these dimension lines. Okay, you don't want them to be all staggered and disgusting and messy. These obviously, believe it or not, are actually pretty important when it comes to building something. So you definitely want to make sure that you have that down. So I need to go back and add the guys that but yeah, your drawing's only as good as your dimensions, right? Because I can almost guarantee you that the builder isn't going to be out there with a scale. Okay, he's going to rely on your dimensions to make this thing happen. So okay, so we don't need to dimension the center of this door because we gave the dimension of the center line here straight down, so we don't need to emphasize that. Again, I'm flying kind of through this because this is something that you're going to have in ConDocs, so I don't I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because then you'll have it twice, and then it's just kind of boring. So now another thing to note is when you dimension these things, the exterior walls are going to be here before the interior walls, right? So when you dimension stuff, you kind of have to think like on this bump out. Should I dimension this bump out from here to here? I mean, it's pretty much already going to be built. What I mean is, should I dimension this dimension from down here to here? And that would be obviously no. You would probably make things simpler, and it would probably you could put it outside here. I could put it here. Now this is a major no-no. So what you'll do is you'll take this out to here, and you can see a leader is automatically put there for you. So you can put something out there like that. And I guess on the outside here, we kind of keep things consistent. We would go to here for an overall dimension. We wouldn't need to do that, right? Because we already have one on the other side. So we have this dimension here, but like I said, to keep things consistent, I'll drag this out here. And when I say keep things consistent, I've got the dimensions on the outside of the walls going across there. So since this is an exterior wall here, I'll add that in there, and I won't add a dimension over here because it's already given on the top. So it'll all come here. These guys. Doesn't need to be that far out. Okay, we could go here and dimension other things as well, but like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on this dimensioning part. So here and here, and I'm going to make sure it's a line straight across. Right, so I come in here and snap to that other one so that it's a line straight across. Now there's nothing really to align here. So we'll have a dimension here. Can do a dimension here and here. Again, we're going to end up with a door tag here, so this probably isn't the best place. So maybe and we're going to actually end up with a door tag in each one of these. So for this one, maybe I do come out here for that all the way across. Okay, because we're going to end up with door tags here. All right, so I think that's good for. I mean, you would need some more dimensions here. Don't get me wrong, a couple more. We've actually done a pretty good job here. It won't be too many more dimensions added. So what we'll do is we'll bring back the door tags. So as long as you didn't delete them when they were created and you hid them as I try to get you to do there, you should be able to turn on your light bulb and you're going to see all of these magenta colored things. Okay, those are your tags. They're all hidden here. So this obviously keeps us from having to recreate those. So what I'll do is just drag a box around all of them. And I don't want this little guy here, so I can deselect that. And in my filters here, remember I can come down here and say check none, and I can just do window tags and door tags. Okay, that's another way just to select these guys. So then I hit OK. Those are selected. So then I can go to unhide and view by category. And that'll unhide those. They won't be magenta anymore. If they're not magenta anymore, they're not hidden. So we can hit the light bulb, and you'll see those come back. So our tags are done. We do need to clean some of the stuff up a little bit, so things aren't overlapping. The tags don't have to be right in the center, especially for dimensioning to the center. You kind of just want to look for things overlapping, kind of just make them nice. So again, like something like this, we can move these guys off to the side. It doesn't hurt to keep them consistent. Like, you know, these guys are outside, these guys are inside. You can drag these outside if you want to. Consistency is nice when you're looking, especially on bigger plans. You know, the more consistent you can be, the easier your plans are to read. Maybe for this one, just drag this out a little further. Okay, this one can kind of just move things around to see how they're going to look. Okay, so for this is another example, just kind of just to show you again here, where I would pull these off to the side. I would go to the annotate and detail line again, center line, and from the center of this door down to the center of this door. And again, go to symbol, center line, center line selected there, and add this center line. And that just says these doors should be aligned on their centers. So you should use that tool as much as possible because it saves you from some dimensions. Alright, so I'm going to save this. Go ahead, if you haven't been following along, just a good point to pause and catch up, and we'll come back and we'll keep on going. Okay, so this is going to be what I'll call acceptable for construction plan for your assignment. So this is it for this plan. So we can leave here. You should have already created floors. So I'm going to jump to the finished plan. And I guess what we'll do here, I actually don't have floors, so if you already have floors, you can kind of just watch, or I guess not. You can fast forward. So home tab, I'm going to do floors, really simple here. I'm going to do some different floors here, just to keep it nice. So basically when I do these floors, I usually go to the center of the room because you're going to want the center of the floor to go through the door. And it doesn't necessarily have to be this way every time. It's going to depend on your design ultimately. For example, I have built-in cabinetry here. Now what I want my floor to actually be under that cabinet, and the answer to that would be no, especially if I'm on tile, because it would be really uneven. So usually your floor stops before there. So when you're worried about the finished plan, you're going to want to stop that more than likely, where the bottom of your cabinet hits the floor, which is going to be here. So I'll trace where my toe kick is here. Alright, and then I'll trim this other stuff out here that I don't need. Okay, so that tells my floor to stop there. Now you would need some kind of subfloor ultimately if this was more of a, a structural. It's not a structural drawing, so we're not really worried about how the floor actually, is constructed. We're only worried about pretty much a visual representation of what this is going to look like. So, and to that extent, what if just thinking ahead, if we do end up doing a hatch, we don't want the hatch really to show up under the doors. So to take it one step further, I might actually even come in here on my corners and do it this way, so the floor doesn't show up there. Since we're strictly worried about visual representation, this is what you would probably want to do. Okay, so that represents, whatever, let's say a hardwood floor here. You want to make sure you don't have any duplicate lines. Like this is going to throw an error for sure. You're going to want to make sure you have one solid form. Or if you're doing two rooms at the same time, you have two solid forms. Make sure, let's say if you dump water into this shape, no water can get out of it. It's got to be watertight basically. So after I've done that, I'm going to change my floor here to maybe I want it to be a wood floor. There's carpet finish, wood finish, so I'll do wood joist 10 inch, it's just one of the standard ones there. So I'll set that, and and I'll hit check mark here. And that'll put my wood floor in there. So you can see what I mean by hatch. If we wouldn't have stopped the line there, we would have had a hatch coming into the wall. But we want the hatch to go to the center of the door, so you kind of just trace where you want that wood floor to go. Okay, so on a finished plan, well, we'll come back to that. I'll leave this how this is, and I'll add another floor over here. Okay, so maybe for this floor, I'll do a tile. Okay, so it looks like the tile's not showing up. So let's go ahead and show it now, and we're going to take care of that later. So what I'll do is I'll have to I'll manage my materials and see what's showing for the surface on tile floors. So we've got ceramic tile. It's not 4-inch tiles. Let's see if I'm missing it here. So under tile here, we've got a surface pattern of none. So if we were doing 12-inch tiles here, no, it must not be that material. Let's see what material it actually has on it. So remember, I can go over to where my floor is here, hit tab until it says floor in the lower left-hand corner, and I can select that floor. Edit type. Edit tile. So the material is just tile, so I can just click on it from here and edit it. So it was hiding down here at the bottom, so I need to change this surface pattern to 12 inches. Hit apply and OK. So there's our tiles. And we'll just do the rest of it here, carpet. So I'm still, well, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go back to home and do floor. Do a line here. So this line's going to start. And it's going to just go ahead and I'm going to go to all the rooms that I'm using it. And I need to make sure that I'm careful. Actually, you know what? That's all right. We're going to put, there's actually stone in this opening, but I'm going to make it carpet because I'm running low on time here. So it's really just a bunch of tracing. Alright, so what I'll do here, just come across, this actually changes from stone. We'll just make all that stone. Make all this stone across here. Okay, so I got a little carried away here, so I use the align tool right. Align that to there. I don't even really need to lock it. I'm not too worried about that right now. And that looks good. So this is going to be neither of these finishes, but we can make it carpet. So there's carpet. We've got 3 floors here. Looks good to me. So when you're doing a finished plan like this, this is basically it. You don't really ever have to show anything. What you might end up showing sometimes is if I go to annotate here and I do, let's say, I could do a keynote if I've been good enough and taking care of everything. I can place a keynote here, and I can say that this is it's a finish paint finish, or a semi-gloss paint finish, maybe even here. Okay, and what I'll do is say from there, if this was a special paint, from there over. Okay, I could do it with a keynote. The other option that you have, if you haven't been keeping up on keynotes, is to use it by leader. So maybe on this wall here, for example, I say this is maybe P1. Okay, and this corresponds to a legend that I have somewhere on another page. But from the nice thing about doing it this way need one more on the top here. Try and get all of your leaders on the there we go, on the bottom, and then we want one on the top. Okay, so maybe this is P1. We can get rid of this one, so we'll look at that when we create a schedule maybe, and then you could call it a wall finish, and then you have your tags, which would be, you could do tag all, or you could do tag by category, and you can see here there's a material tag. So if I select material tag, let me see here first, we'll do tag by category. And I'm going to want to select my floor, so I'm going to hit tab until I get floor, and it's going to give me an error saying that there's nothing loaded. So yeah, we need to load a floor tag here. And maybe eventually you can create your own tags. They're families. For now, we're just going to worry about using what we have in here. So we need to find floor tag. It's probably going to be under architectural. We'll go in here, floor tag, open that. Okay, so what you want to do with your floor tags is line these up here. So you can see the carpet finish is in there. So we've got our wood joist, ceramic tile. So this goes off of the the name of the actual floor type that we had there. And we've got the carpet finish here. And we don't want an attached end here. We want a free end so that we can move our end. So you see how it's attached to this point. If we change this to free end, that'll allow us to move it over to here. So we want to line these kind of up here in the center like this. So basically, anytime that you have a floor change, you add one of these. So you would have the same thing over here. Tag by category again. You can see I got my two finishes here. So I have a wood finish over here. And I guess it doesn't really matter to me, to be honest with you, but I guess it makes sense to have the title on the side that it is. Okay, in an instance like this, we could look at masking regions, but if we use masking regions, we're going to lose our tab here. So in this case, you might want to just not do the whole floor like this, and maybe just pick a corner. So, for example, and this is strictly visual now, you have to remember. So if you do it this way, this isn't technically, probably the structural way of going about doing it, but it gets the idea across. So maybe I'll use the spline tool here, and I'll come in and do a shape or something like that. And take this line down to here to meet it. Need to make sure that this is set on free end so that we still have our connection. So what this does is basically it shows that this is the floor type, but you still have this connection. It makes it easier to read. Again, there's several different ways to skin this cat, but the best way, or not the best way, the way that I found to be the easiest is to just change the wall structure itself rather than try to deal with mask regions, because mask regions can be a bit of a pain. I'll show you why here. If I go to the Home tab here, or I'm sorry, not the Home tab, what am I looking for? Annotate, region, mask region, and I create a mask region here. Looks like we might get away with it here. Oh, I get no effect at all on this time. Okay, so no effect at all. The opposite of the mask region, the filled region, but it's not the same as actually having a floor. But if I were to do a filled region here, I'm sorry, we'll just do the rectangle here. And I'm going to do instead of solid black, duplicate this. Do solid white, fill pattern here, and do a new fill pattern. This might be getting into a little bit too much for right now. Let's hold off on this. This is just this is going to be too much for now. So what we'll do is we'll leave this without the filled regions. Creating custom line styles and patterns is nothing but a pain in any AutoCAD software. So for now, what I recommend we'll do is we'll edit the surface if it gets unreadable. Same thing for this one. It's a spline. You can't trim to a spline, so you just have to move your Alright, so those are good there. So that, I mean, honestly, the finished plan is probably the easiest plan to create because this is what you create your tags from room to room, and any special paint that you have, you might call out, or any special, finish you have, you'll call out with a note, and everything else refers to a general legend. For the most part, if the house is brand new, maybe every wall is painted white for the most part, unless it's a special wall, or even in a bathroom like this. You can see that you would have some kind of special wall. So for the finished plan, this is okay for what I'm looking for. And again, in condocs, you're going to go over why you do things and how to do things. My job is pretty much just to show you how to do it with Revit. So this is okay for the finished plan. And the reflected ceiling plan is going to work the exact same way. So we'll take a look at that, and that'll be the last thing here. So on the reflected ceiling plan, as a refresher here, we're missing some stuff, so I'm going to go to View Properties, and I'm going to go to my depth clipping. I'm going to go to View Range. I need to drop this below my doors, so I'm going to say 6 feet. Okay, that's going to bring back my doors and windows. I don't want door swings, if you remember, so in this view, visibility, graphics, I'm going to find doors. I don't want this swing. I don't want the plan swing. I don't want the panel. I do want the opening. I want the hidden lines. I don't want the glass. I want the frame. I think I just hit cancel there. Let's see. Yeah. There we go. Alright, so now we have our door openings with no swings. We might want the glass for this because we have a glass door here. Yeah, okay. So for reflected ceiling plan, same deal. Home, just like floors, but the opposite. For this, I can actually just get away with doing some automatic ceilings. And then I can select the ceilings, hitting tab here, and trying to find ceiling. My ceiling, I can change this to drywall. The drywall is not going to show up by default, so you go to your manage materials, and you find gypsum wallboard, and you can see the surface pattern has none. We want that to be sand. There's the sand. I really hate 2x4s, so we'll change this to at least a 2x2. By 2. Okay, so that will work for here. And maybe we'll just focus on one room here. So under component here, I'm going to place a component, load family. lighting fixtures. I'm just going to do a couple recess cans here, so I'll find downlight, recess cans, open. Okay, so I've got a 6-inch incandescent, that's fine, so I'll just place some of these in here randomly. Okay, and then I'll click on it just like anything else here and add the dimensions after the fact. So maybe this one's going to be 4 feet from the wall, and this is going to be 4 feet from the wall. So from here, with just one of them, you can do, you can select select this light here and do a line, and a line from the center of that light to here, and lock that. And you can remember the vertical here and the vertical here, and lock that. Okay, and then you need to still add the distance from the wall here, 4 feet. Okay, and then you can align this, whoops, this and this. And we need this guy to be 4 feet. So really, positioning these items it's really no different than positioning anything else. It's the align tool and dimension. Okay, so if the ceiling was going to have some crazy effect to it, so I could select my ceiling and edit the boundary, and let's say it had some layers or something, and I was able to find the middle of my room here by using the midpoints. We can just do the equals thing here, make our lives easier. Okay, that'll cut a hole there, and then what I would do after that is I would actually add another ceiling. So if I'm going to do home, and the original is off 8 feet, so maybe this one's 8'6". Whoops, sketch a ceiling here, circle. Actually, I'll create a line from here. So I'll select create line, and I'll just create this line and this line. And that'll give me a new circle. Maybe those are tiled like that. So what this looks like is it gives you kind of a layered effect. So I go to a 3D view here. You can see I have one ceiling here and then one that bumps up. So if you had like a cove, then what you would do is create you could create a wall that was offset however high that is from the floor with the offset from the top. Or you could create a model in place, just like we do with a family in place or whatever. But you can see how that effect would go for cove ceilings, and you can see the can lights are also placed in here. Okay, so you would, on a reflected ceiling plan, have dimensions to these guys. So what I would do, or what I've done in the past, is maybe something like this. And under detail lines here, I'll draw center line, but I'll draw a rectangle from the center point of all these lights, just like that. Okay, and that says that these guys are all in as a line, so all you need to do is provide 2 dimensions there. And you would specify a radius here, and with every radius you need a center point. However, we use the equals, so maybe to the center of this thing you have this, and it looks like it actually moved on me, but I want it to be equal, so I'll change it. dimension over here. And I need a dimension the other way, telling it where the center of the circle is, so that would be equal as well. Something like that. Okay, so that's you know, the quick and dirty version of how you would dimension that ceiling. I'm not going to go into too much more detail. Other than that, I'll do another room here so you guys get better practice. I'm sorry, more practice. Almost two there. So we'll go back to component. Maybe this time we'll do, we've got a tile here, so we have to be careful where we place these things. Obviously, if we're going to have a tile like this, we can't place a light right here. So that's, you know, one of the downfalls of having tile ceilings. And I have to use cans. We don't have to use cans. We can look at some other stuff here. Pendant light. Okay, so you don't really want to dimension off of the grid if you're doing this. You still want to dimension off of the wall, because the grid's not going to be here when they drop the electrical boxes for these these lights. Somehow my scale got changed here. This needs to be quarter. That's why everything's so small. So now things fit a little bit better. You can see there and here. Make sure all your scale and all your drawings are quarter. We can change that later. It's not a huge deal. I need to actually give these a dimension first, though. So 2'10" looks like it's going okay there. So what I'll do is I'll align the other one to that one. And it looks like it's okay here too, so I'll align this and this. This is okay for me for now. I might make that a little neater. Say if it's 2'10" from top, it could also be 2'10" from the bottom. But that would be a little, it shouldn't be, it should still be 2'10". It's not. Three feet puts it there nice and neat in the center. You know, you don't have to be perfect here because the grid's not going to be perfect. You do want to make sure that these numbers are solid, though. So I'll align that to that, and then I'll align this and this. Okay, so those are aligned, and then I'll go back to my annotate again. Same deal here. Okay, I'll put my box in there so that I know everything's on a line there. Just like that. So dimensioning ceilings really easy, just like finished plans. You know, if anything, it's a time consumer. So go ahead and do that, and we're going to come back and actually start putting stuff on sheets, and that'll be it for this video. Alright, so let's finish this guy off. Let's go ahead and look at sheets. So I'm going to go to View, and under View you'll see the sheet. If the sheet that you want to create isn't here, which this is a really large sheet, we're not going to use this one, we're going to actually load a different sheet. You go to Load, Title Blocks, and we're going to do D for Arc D. Okay, so that pops into the list here, and that'll be it. So we hit OK. Okay, so if you notice here, this title block is actually a family. So one of the easiest ways to create your own title block is to actually create a new sheet here. And you can see you can go to Edit Family, and you can modify this now as a family. And before you actually change anything, I would recommend that you go up here and do Save As. And you're going to save this as a family, and you're going to save it wherever you want to, wherever it might be that you're going to save it. So I'm not going to do that now. That's how you would do that. And then when you were done, you would have your own title block. Or I'm just going to use the one that they give us for now. Okay, so adding things to sheets is really simple. It's so simple that when you go to, like, if you go to a floor plan here and I go to construction plan, I can just drag construction plan out here and place it. Okay, so we've got some things going on here after we place it. A couple things to mention when you place it. Right now this is okay. So when I hover over here, I've got this huge box outside of here. And this is the viewport. Okay, so you've got your viewport, just like kind of like an AutoCAD that you can think of. And then you've got your drawing. So if I go back to this view, we'll see if I zoom out here that the viewport's not exactly showing up, right? So, and my elevation markers are really far away. So these elevation markers technically should be up here. Just like that. Okay, now to bring, when you're in your model view here, to bring your viewport up, you probably notice these guys down here. So I'll show crop region here. And I'm going to make that same size here, as close as possible. And I'll turn that off. One other thing while I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and insert an elevation view. So under view, I'll do elevation. And I'm going to make sure that's on interior elevation. And I'm going to put it right in the middle of this room. And I'm going to select this guy and check all 4 sides. Well, we don't need the other side. I'll do 3 sides. So we need to add elevation there, so that's good. So then I can go back to my sheet. Okay, after I create a sheet, they're located in the project browser. Here's A101. Now you'll notice that since we resized our viewport box and model view, now that big box isn't so big, so now it's just here. Okay, and what you'll do is you want to always keep everything on your sheet to the far right. Okay, so as you add things, you move them up and place below. Don't place things to the left. Always either place it above or below if you can. You want to limit what you put over here, because when you have a bigger project, you're going to bind these sheets, and if you bind things on the left, whatever is in this crease, you're not going to be able to see. So whenever you put things on sheets, make sure you put them all the way over to the right. All right. So we're going to keep everything else on here. This is this is all we're going to put on this sheet. But actually, I lied. I'm probably going to put a legend on here just to show you. So now that we put this on here, we can see this automatically went to A101. This stuff we can fill in to whatever we want. Again, this is something that you're going to go over in construction documents, so I'm not really going to be too hard on you about that stuff. So, but you can see the name of the sheet here, A101. So this is basically your construction plan, right? So this is actually, it should have came in with it, but it didn't. It should have came in with the actual name. But this is just going to be ground level construction plan. This is a good example where we would probably want to redo our title block. There's not a whole lot of room. We don't really want that to overhang like that. Um, we could cut it down to floor plan or construction plan. Otherwise, we need to modify, so we'll keep that as construction plan for now. You know, your project name and owner and all that stuff. It should be noted too that if I go to manage and project information, okay, this stuff will go into this. So for example, you can see the client name where it says owner here. Let's say I'm the client, so I'm Jason. So that's going to go into there. Project name, let's say this is, what is this, Miller Residence, I think. Well, no, this isn't it. Miller. Project number 0004. Issue date, what's today, the 24th. Project status. Author. Okay, so if I hit OK here, it'll update all that stuff for me. I could also change it here. You know, it doesn't have to be done there, but if you want to control it from there, you can see it. It'll automatically go through and fill that in for you. Here's the scale, which corresponds to the scale that we had set in the model view. You can also select the object here and change the scale as well. So if I wanted to change the scale now that I was in here, I could change it here. Not much else to say about that. While we're in this view, you know, I might need to go in here. If I, just like in AutoCAD, you can work through the paper space. You can activate the view here and work on the space here. So I hit activate view, and now if I wanted to move this guy closer, which I do because it's way out there. This guy as well. Really bring these in nice and close, no waste space. And then right click and hit deactivate view. We need to move our title bar up here that came in automatically, so we'll move that up to here. One thing to keep in mind, you move this, kind of tricky. If you actually select the thing to try and make it smaller, it's not going to happen. You actually have to select the viewport, and then you'll see you get a dot. All right. Good. So, and then we could add, like I said, we could go to view legends. We could create a legend here, or actually, let's create a schedule. And let's create a door schedule. And what do we want to include? We want to include the height of the door. We want to include the width of the door. We want to include, maybe we want to include the manufacturer. Maybe we want to include the model. Maybe we want to include keynote. You can see here, you just basically include whatever you want on there. Fire ratings usually included. Level would be a good idea. That should be it for now. I'll hit OK. Okay, it's going to create a nice little door schedule here. The heights, the widths. So from here, now that we actually have a tag, you'll see, or I'm sorry, a schedule. It actually goes into the project manager just like everything else. So now we can go back to our sheet, and we'll go into and find our door schedule and drag that out here. And we'll place, like I said, we want to keep our information up high. He's the same. So what's happening is every time I move the thing to the left there, I get a, there we go. Okay, so our door schedule comes in here, and you can control the individual lines here just by moving these bars. One thing that we're missing here, if we go back to our door schedule, we can edit the door schedule. We're missing our tag name. Should already be in here. Where is it? There we go. It's under type mark, not tag. So there's our tag number. That should correspond to the actual tag that's on the actual plan. So after we do that, we don't really have to do anything now. We can just go there, automatically update. So there's our type mark. So door 6. Move this over so we can see. So 4, 8, 4, 15, 15. Always forget where I'm at here and go back to construction plan. Marks 2, so that I include the mark. Oh, type mark, not mark. There's mark, so we can get rid of type mark. There we go. So there's our door. That corresponds to the actual. I'm sorry, got confused there. Type mark and mark. So mark is actually the tag there. So so now we're good to go on that schedule. So that's basically it for schedules. Again, the important thing when you're laying these sheets out is you keep everything to the right. If you keep things nice and neat, everything to the right, everything aligned up and down here, you're really going to be okay as far as I know. Sheets, this is actually a pretty decent set here. Any notes that you include or schedules, everything's the same way. So I feel like it would be redundant for me to do the same thing over and over again. Especially since it's a video, you can kind of slow things down and pause and play around. You have to practice and experiment. That's all I can really tell you. So I'll go ahead and create one more sheet here. And this sheet was going to be called, let's go to view, sheet, same sheet here, the D sheet. This one's going to be maybe a detail sheet. I don't know why I put detail on there, detail plans. Okay, and remember that call out that we created of the bathroom, drag that out here. Okay, so that'll blow up the bathroom for us. So I actually need to go to that plan and add some dimensions to it. See, the beauty of being able to make this larger is I can add dimensions without cluttering things up. See, this is actually going to go here. I can go there. Okay, I've got this dimension and this dimension, so I don't need this dimension. got this dimension, so I don't need that dimension. I do need a dimension all the way across. To make this bigger, now remember, if I make this box bigger, it's going to make the box bigger on, obviously, the actual paper. So you have to keep in mind, make sure you're not interfering with anything else on your construction plan. So that'll work. Go back now to my sheets, and you can see it updates there. And here's my little plan. Now you also notice this is 1, right? If you remember when we drew it, it gave it a little bubble. Here's callout 1. So if I go back to my plan, now that I've actually added this to a sheet, if I go back to my construction plan, you'll see now it automatically adds not only the number on the sheet, but it also gives the sheet that it's located on, and this will update automatically all the time. So whatever sheet number you end up creating that plan on, Revit's smart enough to figure out where to actually add it in here. So these guys are actually filled in. You'll also notice on our elevations here, if I create a new sheet, sheet, okay, elevations, find the elevations that I've created, the interior elevations. Drag and drop these, line it up. Okay, so I'm not going to worry too much about alignment here. I'm sure you guys can figure that out by now. What I am worried about, well, I'll show you this first one. Okay, so I'm going to turn on my clipping box here. So the clipping box is actually going to crop this. That's actually what I want. Turn that on. This guy. Move it over some. This isn't ground level RCP, this is just ground level. Give it more room to breathe. So you can see that spaces that out better. Got my elevation 1A here. If you notice, I'm on sheet A103, so if I go back to my construction plan, this automatically updates the A103, which it should. And then I've got my elevation numbers, which correspond, so I could go to A103, elevation 1-A, go down to my sheets here, elevation 1A. So there's elevation 1, elevation 1A. This is whatever this would be. You're not going to name this elevation 1A. I can tell you. I'm on my sheet here. Go back. Rename this something more meaningful. Name that living room north, then go back to my plans here. That'll update the living room north instead of elevation 1C and so forth. And then if you go to your construction plan, living room north. So you can turn this, you can create your own tags or edit the type here, and then duplicate if you wanted to change stuff. Just like always, these are families, so you can create your own if you don't like the way these are laid out. So you can see the beauty in Revit, how things update for you automatically, things correspond. So you know, just like the triangles here. To go to the elevation, you can double click on the elevation, go to the elevation, your sheets are listed in here. Okay, so remember, if you want, you have to select the viewport, make these smaller. Should be as long as the actual tag. I don't think anything else we can go over today. We can save it for later. Yeah, we can go all over this later. Alright, so I mean, space these however you want to. You're just using a snap to space it off of the text bubble. Just make sure you keep things to the right. You would have a lot more elevations than this, obviously, to fill up the sheet. And we had one more plan, which was the finish plan. So drag that onto here. Finish plan, I'll select this guy, move it. Okay, so we wouldn't want that showing on the finish plan, right? So we need to make sure we take care of that on the finish plan. So I'll go to the finish plan and I'll select it. And I'll hide in view element. And don't need these. So I'll just select everything and do a filter, check none, elevations, and hide in view elements. What are these guys? And views. Alright, so now we can go back to our sheet. These will all be gone. Move this over here. Let's see. So we got our nice sheets here, numbered and named.